The diplomatic banquet at the Ethran royal palace had gone late into the night. Elaborate ceremony filled with formal toasts, cultural performances, and the kind of careful protocol that left human trade liaison Marcus Chen exhausted by the time it finally concluded. He'd been assigned guest quarters in the palace's diplomatic wing, comfortable rooms appropriate for visiting representatives. The attendant who'd shown him the way had been very clear. Your chamber is the third door on the left corridor. The Queen's private wing is beyond the sealed archway at the corridor's end. You must not cross into her private chambers under any circumstances. Marcus had nodded, committed the directions to memory, and thought nothing more of it. But when he finally made his way to his quarters after the banquet, exhausted, slightly disoriented from the unfamiliar palace layout and the ceremonial wine that had been served, he made a critical error. He turned right instead of left, walked past what he thought was the sealed archway, actually just decorative architecture, and entered what he believed was his assigned chamber. The room was dark, comfortable, and Marcus was too tired to notice the subtle differences in decoration that would have indicated this was far more elaborate than standard guest quarters. He collapsed onto the bed and was asleep within minutes. Marcus woke slowly to early morning light filtering through unfamiliar windows. His first coherent thought was that something felt wrong about the room's layout. His second coherent thought was that there was someone else in the bed. He froze completely, his eyes focusing on the figure beside him. Queen Solara herself, her long pointed ears visible in profile, her head resting against his chest with the kind of unguarded calm that suggested she'd been sleeping peacefully. Marcus's brain struggled to process what was happening. He was in the Queen's bed. The Queen was asleep against him. This was impossible and absolutely catastrophic from a diplomatic protocol standpoint. He tried to extract himself carefully without waking her, but the movement caused Solara to stir. Her violet eyes opened, focusing on Marcus with expression that cycled through surprise, recognition, and something Marcus couldn't quite identify. "You," she said quietly, "you're the human trade liaison from last night's banquet." "Your Majesty, I am so sorry," Marcus said quickly, trying to move away while maintaining some semblance of respectful distance. "I was assigned guest quarters, but I must have gotten disoriented and entered the wrong chamber. I didn't realize this was your private room until just now." Solara sat up slowly, her expression shifting to something between careful assessment and what might have been barely controlled emotion. "You entered my private chambers accidentally." "Yes, I'm deeply sorry. The attendant gave me directions, but I must have turned the wrong way. I thought this was my assigned room. I would never have deliberately." Before Marcus could finish his apology, the chamber doors burst open. Palace guards rushed in, clearly having been alerted by the presence of someone in the Queen's private chambers. "Your Majesty," the lead guard shouted, moving to physically remove Marcus. "This intruder has violated the sacred." "Stop," Solara commanded, her voice carrying absolute authority. "He will not be removed." The guards froze, clearly uncertain how to process their queen's command to leave alone someone who was in her bed. Solara stood, maintaining her composure despite the unprecedented situation. "This human entered my chambers accidentally. I awakened to find him here, and I chose to remain rather than alert guards immediately." She looked at Marcus, then at her guards. "Among our people, choosing to sleep beside another is not casual act. It is declaration of trust reserved for those we recognize as worthy of absolute vulnerability. When I awakened and realized someone had entered my chambers, I could have summoned guards. I chose not to." The lead guard looked horrified. "Your Majesty, surely you don't suggest the human violated sacred protocols." "The human made an honest mistake caused by exhaustion and unfamiliarity with palace layout," Solara interrupted. "But when I awakened beside him, I recognized something significant. He had entered my most private space accidentally, and rather than taking advantage of that access, he simply slept." No attempt to harm me, no attempt to steal, no attempt to violate my trust, just peaceful rest. She turned to Marcus. When you awakened and realized where you were, your first response was immediate apology and attempt to leave without disturbing me. That instinct, that prioritization of my comfort over your own confusion, suggests character worth recognizing. Marcus tried to process what was happening. Your Majesty, I appreciate your understanding, but I should leave immediately to avoid further. You will stay, Solara interrupted. Because by our laws and customs, when someone sleeps beside the queen, and she chooses to remain rather than summon guards, it signifies recognition of bond that cannot be dismissed. She looked at her guards. This human is now under my protection. You will prepare appropriate chambers for him in my private wing, and ensure he is treated with respect due to someone I have recognized through choice rather than obligation. Over the following days, as Marcus tried to understand what had actually happened, Solara explained the full implications. Among my people, sleep is considered the most vulnerable state. We do not share sleeping space casually. To do so signifies trust that someone can be near us in our most defenseless moments without taking advantage. When I awakened beside you, I could have immediately summoned guards and had you executed for violation. She looked at Marcus directly. Instead, I observed you sleeping peacefully, recognized that you had entered accidentally rather than with malicious intent, and chose to remain rather than disturb what I recognized as innocent mistake. By making that choice, I triggered ancient laws about recognition of worthy companions. You're saying that because I accidentally slept in your bed and you didn't have me killed, we're now, what, bonded? Marcus asked. I am saying that I chose to remain beside you rather than summon guards, which by our laws signifies recognition that you are someone worthy of trust in vulnerable moments, Solara corrected. That recognition creates obligations and connections that cannot be simply dismissed. She paused. You entered my chambers accidentally but harmlessly. You slept peacefully without attempting to harm or violate my space. When you awakened, your immediate response was apology and attempt to leave without disturbing me. That pattern of behavior, innocent mistake followed by respectful response, demonstrated character worth recognizing. But I just got lost and ended up in the wrong room, Marcus protested. And yet the manner in which you handled that mistake revealed your character, Solara responded. Many would have attempted to take advantage of such access. Some would have fled in panic, creating disturbance. You simply apologized quietly and attempted to leave without causing further problems. That character, that instinctive prioritization of others' comfort even in confusing circumstances, is exactly what the recognition laws were designed to identify. Over the following weeks, as Marcus adjusted to his new position as someone the Queen had publicly recognized through sleeping arrangements that everyone considered deeply significant, he had a conversation with Solara that clarified everything. I was alone in those chambers because I trusted no one enough to be vulnerable in their presence, Solara admitted. For years, I have slept alone because sharing sleeping space requires trust I couldn't give anyone in my court. They all want something, all calculate advantage, all see me as queen rather than person. She looked at Marcus. When you accidentally entered my chambers and fell asleep beside me, you did so without calculation or intent. And when I awakened to find you there, I recognized something profound. You were trustworthy in my most vulnerable space, not because you were performing that trustworthiness, but because you genuinely meant no harm and instinctively prioritized respect over advantage. So my mistake became recognition of character, Marcus asked. Your mistake revealed character that performance could never demonstrate, Solara confirmed. You passed a test you didn't know you were taking, proving yourself worthy of trust not through deliberate action, but through instinctive response when confused and vulnerable yourself. That authenticity is exactly what makes the bond I recognized valid and valuable. Some bonds are formed through careful courtship and deliberate choice, some through shared experiences and mutual understanding, and some are created through accidental mistakes that reveal character in ways performance never could, proving that the most profound connections sometimes form when someone enters your most vulnerable space by accident and demonstrates through their confused, instinctive responses that they can be trusted with vulnerability, because their character prioritizes respect over advantage even when no one is watching and nothing is calculated. The human who slept in the wrong bed discovered that honest mistakes revealing genuine character can create recognition stronger than any deliberate courtship, because choosing to remain beside someone who entered accidentally but harmlessly demonstrates trust that conscious choice can never replicate. And the queen who awakened to find someone in her bed chose to see opportunity rather than violation, recognizing that character revealed through confusion is more reliable than character demonstrated through performance.